I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and since I am a representative of the Rehoboth Business Association, I'm going to hear it from my colleagues if I don't ask a question about business in town. So taxes and raising revenue is a huge issue, right? We'd all like to see some more revenue, but there's only so much you can get from residential, you would agree. Are you in favor of some way in town of increasing the prospects for business development along the corridors that we've established, or maybe could expand upon by zoning, maybe bringing in municipal water to some degree in certain areas of town? What do you think is a direction that the town could go in to increase that tax base and keep the character, but not end up like a bedroom community of Barrington, which is what we're heading towards? I do a lot of closings in town, and I'm seeing that the folks who live here in town, it's very hard for their kids to stay in this town. They simply can't afford it. They're heading to Attleboro, Taunton, Mansfield, where they can afford it. What do you think can be done commercial-wise to increase that tax base? And I'll direct it to you first, Mike.
Okay, first of all, we have one of the lowest tax rates in the Commonwealth. We're under the 3% tile, but what we do need to do is look at our commercial zone very carefully. As you know, there is a new committee that is looking at our zoning. In fact, I was chair of that committee, and we just about finished up. There's a meeting, actually a public hearing tomorrow night at the planning board to finalize that before it goes to town meeting. I had asked for another source of funds to do phase 2 of this, so we can hire, by the way, we have one of the top zoning lawyers in the Commonwealth. He has written zoning laws and all kinds of things. This guy is unbelievable. So, but he's not cheap. So we're bringing him back to do phase 2. Now phase 2 will phase 1 was just look to simplify our zoning bylaw book per se, to index it, make it more readable for the average person. Phase 2 is to look at our zoning. Now, years ago, when our grandfathers zoned our town, we put business everywhere. We put business on Providence Street, Plain Street, Tremont Street, Route 44. We put it everywhere. So if we were to go out and say, okay, we want to increase the setback by 400 feet instead of 300 feet, we have to be careful, because that would give the right of someone on Providence Street or someone on Plain Street or Tremont Street to set back where it's more residential. So I'm under the conclusion to have a discussion to look at a 2-phase business zone, where you'd have zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 would be the present business zone. Zone 2 would be just 44, where we would just increase the setback on 44 and not anywhere else. And we would look at different areas of 44, because there are spot zoning on 44 for business and residential agricultural. Those things have to be looked at too, because to make sure that we have the resources also to support types of businesses. We can't support, and I hear this all the time, we cannot support a Walmart. We cannot support these large box stores, because we have septic systems, we have wells, and we also, people don't realize that with the new stormwater regulations, and Dave knows a lot about this, that you must keep your water on your property. So they need a large area to be able to put underground drainage systems in storage areas. So it just wouldn't support a large thing. But would it support a small type like CVS or Walgreens? It could do that. So definitely I would go in that direction on the phase 2 of the zoning bylaw committee with doing the 2-phase zoning in town for business.
Mike, it's going to be great working with you. I gotta say something without saying, I just agree with Mike. From a businessman standpoint, and you people are mostly businessmen,
And women.
and women, business people, I'm sorry. I own a commercial building in Seekonk, and I know what I pay for taxes compared to Rehoboth. My building is assessed in Seekonk at $350,000. I pay almost $9,000 in taxes. I have 12 trucks, I pay another $2,000 in excise tax. I pay a total of $12,000 in taxes. By expanding business, I have no kids using the Seekonk school system. I have a well and a septic system. I use none of their services, but I give them $12,000 a year. If that same business moved to Rehoboth, it would be about $4,800. Right? So there's an enticement to build and move into Rehoboth, but you can't do it on a small lot. Right? And also, you're not going to entice business to move to Rehoboth if you got small lots like Mike was talking about, because you got to have a septic system, a well, stormwater recharge. Take a local restaurant, the plaza that Vino is in right now. That setback so far is because there's wetlands out front. If you have a small lot and you've got a certain amount of wetlands on that lot, you can't develop that piece of that lot. But if it's good land back deeper, that allows you to put a commercial project on that. Now, by having more commercial land, you don't raise necessarily the tax rate, but you have a bigger tax base. And so it doesn't cost the business owner any more. The business owner spends more money, but it's because he's got a bigger parcel. He's got more land. So that would compute into, like, drawing business in the town, more tax revenue without putting a burden on the residential end. And of course, also, the bigger the businesses are, because mom and pop's places start in garages, they expand to little buildings along 44, but then they have to expand into bigger buildings. If you can't put the bigger building up, you move out of town. You take the jobs with you. And a lot of them are just local people trying to have a business there. So definitely rezoning, not a split rate, but split the zoning up to fit the character of the area. And I feel that would draw businesses and keep businesses here. It would draw mine here. If I wasn't 61 years old, I'd move.
Okay, I'm going to try to follow up on that a little bit. So, and this is more probably of trying to get a better explanation for myself on how this would actually work with the Phase 2 zoning. If you were to allow bigger stores to come in, like a CVS or not like a super Stop and Shop type size, but like a more than a grocery store, 10,000 square foot store, how would Phase 2 zoning support that store? Would they still have to be on septic, or would you need, septic, or would you need to bring in water, need to bring in sewer to support those types of stores?
For me, bigger commercial stores can be on septic. There's not a big issue there. It depends upon the size of the septic system. Remember, just because you've got a big building doesn't mean you have a big septic need. It's based upon the type of business, the use of the business. Unfortunately, there was one in Seekonk, a gentleman wanted to put a funeral home on. Now, you would think, how big is septic does a funeral home need? How many people use the bathroom? But Seekonk viewed it as the same as Showcase Cinema. If every place was packed and everybody's using the bathroom at once, even though there wasn't that capability. He scrapped his plans to expand into Seekonk. I keep using Seekonk because I just know what has transpired there. So septic systems would limit some businesses on the size, but not all businesses. Wells, how much water you're really using. So I don't think that would be a big limitation.
So just to follow up on that, so a restaurant, like Buffalo Wild Wings just moved into Mansfield, so that's probably like maybe a 6,000 square foot restaurant, 7,000 square feet. It probably serves a couple hundred customers at a time. That probably would not be able to be something that would be supported.
It all depends upon the septic system design. I mean, it really is. I can't answer that question in entirety.
Mike?
Yes. First of all, you wouldn't have anyone coming in for a 10,000 square foot or 12,000 square foot, because then they would come into the fire suppression code where they'd have to have sprinkler systems. And then they'd have to do like Cardi did. I don't know if anyone's noticed the tank that's next to Cardi's, the big water tank. That's for their fire suppression. And they had to do that over there, and that's what someone would have to do in this town for sprinkler system. And the other thing is, you could get a Buffalo Wild Wings. What they would do is the septic would take care of their bathrooms and their sinks and stuff like that. But they would also have tight tanks to take care of their grease traps and all that stuff. So it could work in that 400-foot setback. The other thing is that what the biggest thing about putting a facility in is, and Dave knows this because of stormwater, is now they're doing these underground drainage. Instead of a retention pond, you've all seen retention ponds throughout town at subdivisions and even at businesses. They do away with that. They put an underground retention pond. You can't see it. You can drive over it. It'll be part of the parking lot, and it'll be under the ground. So you need that type of system when you get rid of your stormwater. The other thing is now you have to have good soils. You have to have a piece of property that can support all this. So that could be hard to find along 44, but there are probably some chosen lots on 44 that could support something like that. But you could get some good restaurants through 44, but you also could get some small version of your box stores. Whether it wouldn't be like Stop and Shop or Shaw's, it would be those specialty markets, and you could get a smaller version of them. But I think by doing the two-tier, where 44 would be the only one that would increase in setback, I think it's better for the town as far as business-wise, because we don't want to see that on the outer skirts of our town, where businesses don't have that ability to expand that much. And if they did, they would. If you gave them that ability, they would. So I'd just rather see that two-tier system, and it will be worked on the second phase of our zoning bylaw, and I hope that the Business Association would get involved in that.